Right then, Year 8. Now we get to the business end of our exploration of the poem Tissue by Imtiaz Dharker. So far, we have looked at the opening 5 stanzas, and you have identified links between the power of paper and our identity as people. In this lesson, we're going to look at how to link all of those ideas together. I'm going to talk you through some of the answers that students have given me. And then the big question at the end, we're going to see if we can work out what this poem is telling us about identity and power. So the big question, what is this poem saying about identity and power? Remember, those opening 2 lines are going to be really useful for you when you write up your final essay. Paper that lets the light shine through is what could alter things. So you told me in your answers to lesson 1 that something that lets light shine through is what we call translucent, which is correct. So translucent, thin, fragile paper is something that can change things. We also asked you to think about different types of paper in our everyday lives, and there were so many examples of different types of paper that you came up with. They were brilliant. What about half of you concentrated on was specific types of the physical form of paper. So you would talk about tissue paper, about toilet paper, about A4, A5, A6 paper. So you concentrated on specific types of literal paper and the different forms that it takes, which is absolutely fine, and it showed exactly how many there are. But what I want to focus in on now are the types of paper documents that are in our everyday lives that the other half of you picked up on. So let's have a look at those. So what some of you were able to identify was that there are bits of paper in our day-to-day lives that are really important and that in themselves can change things. So thinking back to those opening 2 lines, paper, thin, fragile paper, can change things. Now, some of the things that you told me were birth certificates. So I don't know if you're all aware of the fact that you all have a birth certificate, and it's a literal piece of paper that you have to go and get it from the registry office where you were born. So your parents will have gone to get it and they will have signed it and it will be documented in a book somewhere, and you have a physical piece of paper. And what's really interesting is later on in life, when it comes to getting things like a mortgage or when you want to get credit for anything or you want to apply for a passport and so on, you need your birth certificate, and it's not enough to have a picture of it. It's not enough for you to be registered online. You need the physical copy, and that goes on right the way through your life. I'm buying a house at the moment, and I've needed documentation that I've put at the back of a drawer somewhere, and I've needed it. You need the physical bit of paper. Paper has so much power when it comes to identity. You also mentioned, some of you, marriage certificates. And again, this is a physical piece of paper, and you sign a physical book that says that you have got married on that particular day and your partner signs it too. Mortgage documentation. So when you buy a house, you need a mortgage. When you buy a house also, there are deeds, paper deeds that are basically deeds explain when the house was built, anything that links to the rules surrounding the land around it or trees that are planted or so on. It's got all the information about the original build, and they again exist physically. So when you buy a house, solicitors will look through the deeds of the property that you're buying and they photocopy bits of it, and it's fascinating really, but it's all on paper. And at no point do we rely on the internet or electronic records for any of these things. You've got to have the physical paper. Medical notes. I don't know if any of you have ever seen when you go to the doctors and they type on the computer and so on. All of your notes are online. But again, I've been recently to hospital for somebody else, and There are folders worth of paper documents. At no point are people looking on a screen to find out about you. There are binders on the end of the bed with paper in them that people write on. So it's a physical thing. It's not enough to have things electronically. It's physical. Passports. Now, passports, all right, you've got kind of a thicker cover, but that's just a special type of paper. A bit of paper will get you from one country to another. A little booklet of paper. Amazing. Visas, same principle. So some countries require a visa, like Australia or America, if you're going for a long period of time. You are required to have a visa. Has to be a physical document that you can take out of your pocket and show to somebody. Bank statements, credit documents, driving license. There are so many different pieces of paper that are crucial to you being able to move forward in life. Now, your final question on this is, can you tell me one other piece of paper, or there'll be a number, hopefully, and you will receive them soon. So I don't mean school reports, because typically they're online now. I mean, in a few years' time, you will get physical pieces of paper that, again, you will have to keep. You will have to keep them safe. What will be on those physical pieces of paper in approximately 3 years' time? That's the first question on your Google form. So let's read the end of the poem Tissue. So far then, we have been told that paper is what could change things. And then Dharker, the poet, goes on to talk about lots of different types of paper. So you had maps, you had receipts, you had the Quran, and she talks about how significant these pieces of paper are in our everyday lives. So let's continue. An architect could use all this, place layer over layer, luminous script over numbers over line, and never wish to build again with brick or block, but let the daylight break through capitals and monoliths, through the shapes that pride can make. Find a way to trace a grand design with living tissue. Raise a structure never meant to last, of paper smoothed and stroked, and thinned to be transparent, turned into your skin. So let's have a look at that ending stanza by stanza to see if we can work out what Dharker is trying to suggest. So first off, a few questions for you. So first of all, what does an architect do? So this is on your Google form. What does an architect do? Second question, what is a monolith? Now, there are two meanings to this. There are two meanings that you could have for the word monolith. Now, the first one I'm going to give you, if you look in that bottom right corner, do you remember recently in the news these monoliths kept appearing in different places? There were mirrored ones, and then over Thanksgiving and Christmas there were some gingerbread ones that appeared as well. So one definition of a monolith is of a typically stone structure, and it's a straightforward, simple, usually tall structure. So that's one definition of a monolith. I want you to see if you can find me a second definition of a monolith. So apart from being a structure, a stone structure, what is a monolith? Your third question, it says there in the poem that the architect could use all of this paper, all of this information, and never wish to build again with brick or block, but let the daylight break through capitals and monoliths. So capitals, again, we've got a couple of meanings. If I give you one, I want you to tell me what the other meaning is. So if I was to think of the word capital, I would think of a capital letter. Can you tell me what the word capital means? Give me a definition of capital. If I'm talking about capital letters, give me another meaning or association or definition of the word capital. Next question. This one, she says that architect could place all of this paper over and over and over on top of each other and build with that, build with metaphorically all the power and information that it contains. And she says that the architect could find a way to trace a grand design with living tissue. Now, tracing has two different meanings as well. The first meaning I'm going to give you, if you trace something, it's when you put a piece of paper over something and you copy it, don't you? So tracing is the version I'm talking about, is the one whereby you place something over something else, usually paper, and then you copy the thing underneath by way of drawing around it with your pencil or your pen. So that's the tracing I mean. But there is a different type of tracing. I want you to see if you can work out what that other type of tracing is. If you trace something. And then the final question, and this is a bit of a thinker, because Dharker says that these architects could use all of this information to build a structure, to raise a structure never meant to last. What sort of structure is not meant to last, is my question. What does she mean by that? What kind of structure is not meant to last? What kind of thing could you put together that you know is not going to last forever? So our final big question is, what sort of person might use all of this paper and its power over us to build a structure never meant to last? What could Imtiaz Dharker be suggesting about power, about paper, and about people? What sort of person might want to use all of this information about us and its power over us to build a structure never meant to last? So again, on the Google form, fill in your answer. Give me as much detail as possible. If you don't feel able to answer the question immediately, just think aloud to yourself, or think aloud on the paper, on the form, and just explain your thoughts, and you might end up getting somewhere that will enable you to have a really good go at the essay that follows. So what will happen this week is, when you've done this lesson, your teachers will meet with you and talk you through the response that they want you to give in terms of what the essay should look like. It's only short, but it's just to gather all of these thoughts together. So finish this lesson and then we'll see you in your class meets. Well done.